Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Tony and Dakota podcast. Obviously, this is not Tony and Dakota. We're going to be doing things a little bit differently today. We are going to be interviewing the owners of the show, Tony and Dakota. I'm Christian.
My name is Andrew.
And we work here at LTD. He's head of sales, and I'm just an assistant guy. So let's get this thing started.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, buddy.
Thanks for having us on.
Yep.
Yeah, welcome.
Thanks for letting us do your guys' podcast. We're the hosts today, so you guys are in the hot seat.
Whose idea was it? Was it Christian's idea or was it
It was
Andrew's?
mostly Christians.
Yeah, my idea. We're going to get this thing going. So, Andrew, if you want to start us out, you want to ask Tony and Dakota a nice question?
Yeah, you're not allowed to ask them questions.
What do
No,
I
you
want to
can't.
start with? Yeah, so I want to start with just like what got you guys like even started with this journey from just walk us through kind of where you started in your guys' life from going back to when you guys were younger to kind of working your guys' previous jobs and then kind of go into, starting the company and then, kind of just what happened from there.
All right, so you want me to tell my whole life? All right.
Yeah.
You can go first.
Well, I think the main difference between the way that you grew up, Andrew, and the way that I grew up is that we just got the internet at age 10, age 12, and so we didn't have any entrepreneurial influences besides folks who already had established small businesses and that sort of thing in town. And so I thought that I had to go to college. That's what everybody told me. You have to go to college. And there wasn't very much evidence on the internet besides that was basically it. So I was graduating high school at, I was 17 years old and they asked you what you wanted to go for in college. And then I graduated at 18 and I didn't even develop entrepreneur values until maybe I was 21. I remember getting this book from this old man. It was... he just seemed super happy, and it was over a January internship I was doing for college. I was studying exercise science. He gave me the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Mm-hmm. And then shortly after that, I found out that I actually did like reading. I thought that I hated reading. I just wasn't reading the right stuff. And what's crazy about high school and college is that they give you all of these classics from... authors who became famous after they died. Mm-hmm. And it was all fiction, or it was all supposed to be an allegory or symbolic, and they would push all this meaning out about what the books meant and that sort of thing. But it wasn't practical advice that could actually help you create freedom in your life. So I learned, even though I was going for exercise science, I learned that what I really actually enjoyed was developing myself. And so Elliot Hulse, I was watching a lot of his videos. He said, turn your car into a library, and started reading almost all the books that he recommended, like Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now, The Secret. Bob Proctor was a big part of that one. One of Dakota's favorites was Think and Grow Rich. And so those books kind of expand your mind. And then the big one for me, after I got done with college, I went on to AmeriCorps. I was in a Barnes & Noble. I saw the Dave Ramsey book right there, but I was like, I don't know. Something tells me that guy doesn't know. He doesn't have the answer. Because I had options. It was either Dave Ramsey, Tony Robbins, which would have been okay, and then I saw this Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and the title grabbed me, and I was like, huh. And after I read the foreword and stuff, I was like, oh, this guy's going to give me the secret. He's going to talk about what the poor and the middle class do and what the rich do and how they're different. And so after I read that book, I was like, wow. Passive residual income, and there's only 4 vehicles to do that, and the main one that allows you leverage that you can get started with little to no money is real estate. Yeah. And so then I just started reading everything real estate. I had no interest in flipping houses, no interest in fixing things up. I was painting Dakota's closet at his house and completely missed a room, and he was like, did you paint this room? And I was like, yes. Why do you keep asking me? He's like, it doesn't look like it got painted. So that I messed that one up. That room actually never did get painted. But I didn't have any interest in houses. It just happened to be that it's one of the best vehicles for creating wealth and freedom. And that was what I was on the pursuit of.
Nice.
Nice.
Yeah. So for me, I grew up real poor, like real poor. Like couldn't eat, different things like that, especially from, after foster care mostly. So, yeah, I grew up in a interesting household with two sisters mostly. So, yeah, I was mostly with my mom, but I was with my two sisters the whole time. So I had a lot of female influence on my life, which either like made me more open to females, which is funny because I thought I understood females more, but also it could have made me more masculine in the sense of like I had to become more dominant because I felt like, all right, man, I got to be the man of the house and I got to step up for, my family and stuff like that. So it's interesting how it can go one of two ways. It can either make you more dominant or, have you be more open to feminine energy.
Yeah.
So I feel like it did a little bit of both for me, but yeah, I grew up in foster care for a couple years, and we moved around a lot, so there was not a whole lot of people that were around me that, were the same except for my sisters. And, yeah, from there, I mean, after we got back, again, it was super rough. We were super poor, didn't have a whole lot of heat in the wintertime, had to share a bathtub with like 6 kids. It was insane. Didn't have heating in the house, and then a lot of the houses that we see that are like real rough and like there's no flooring, there's literally no kitchen, like countertops, no sink, stuff like that. That was how we grew up. And then also I remember washing the dishes. The way that we washed our dishes in our house was this big metal bowl that you just wash the dishes in. So it's like that bowl got real freaking dirty because you just go put it in like a different sink, but you couldn't wash the dishes. So you got that one, you put some soap in it, and then you clean the dishes in that bowl. So yeah, that was mostly my childhood, was just growing up extremely poor. And then I kind of got rebellious in the sense of like, I don't want to listen to my parents. I don't want to listen to teachers, different things like that, people who told me certain things. And then I look at their life, I'm like, I don't know if you actually know what you're talking about. And I remember everybody was always like, eventually one day you're going to look back and say that your parents were right. And I'm like, I still haven't gotten there. Because I still think that like they taught a lot of great lessons. There's a lot of things that they did teach that were right, but at the same time, I still don't be like, oh yeah, they had it figured out and they were telling me all this stuff. It's like, nah, I think they were almost just as wrong as I thought they were, and I think that I still helped them with different things. But people they might be mad at me for saying that, but it is what it is. Like I really do feel that way. Of like it's not like I'm like, oh, now I think my parents do know everything, and like nah, I can tell how broken, I mean, realistically, we all are. But anyway, from there, going to high school, I did okay in high school. Got, mostly A's and B's, and then sometimes I get a C+, and then I go talk to the teacher, be like, all right, how am I going to get this to a B-? Because, I want to get those A's and B's, and so I'd negotiate with them. Most of the time it worked. And anyway, and then I got kicked out, which is funny. I got kicked out 2 of my years. So I got kicked out my sophomore year and my senior year, and then I kept going to alternative school. Then I just flew through these tests because I was like, dude, screw this. I just want to be done. So ended up getting it all done, graduated at 17. Then went really, really hard into the workforce, and I just started working like physical labor, doing any job I could do. Had multiple jobs, 3 jobs at a time, just doing whatever I could to survive. Was making like $12 an hour, or 60 hours a week. It was insane. And yeah, from there, got into car sales eventually one winter, and then after car sales, like I started reading books like what Tony talked about, Think and Grow Rich, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Have you guys read that, by the way?
I have not read that one yet, no.
That is like, never read it.
That one is like the best one. So if you guys can read that one, I would literally put that as like the #1 book that every single person needs to read.
Yeah, I'd say Rich Dad Poor Dad is an introduction to wealth creation, thinking differently, understanding leverage, knowing what the wealthy do that the poor and the middle class don't.
Yeah.
How to win friends and influence people is an introduction to personal development. Like it's the best introduction to it.
I like how to connect with people and love and.
Yeah, I liked Rich Dad Poor Dad just because like I think that was like the 2nd or 3rd book I read. I think the first one I read was 10 Pillars of Wealth, and then like the next one was like Millionaire Fastlane. There was like a sequence of 5 books that my uncle had me read, but Rich Dad Poor Dad was really good. But that's surprising too, is just because like that one, like you said, How to Win Friends and Influence, is just like I'm in sales now, and then like sales background. But like when I first got here, I did not know how to talk to a single person, build a relationship with somebody, which like I still struggle with that outside of sales, and like that I'm really good at putting that personality on to like connect with somebody. when we're purchasing their property or like building that relationship. But like that's something I still struggle with outside, is like building relationships with just like normal human beings or just day-to-day people. So that's something I like would love to read, or just like, you know, like you said, like your car is a vehicle, and more listen to like Jeremy Minor more. He just talks about like that stuff too. Like he preaches that, and I've just been like doing that now every single day before work, like just reading books now, or listening to books in the car, listening to podcasts, and like doing that stuff because like I want to grow my, you know, level of thinking, or like what I say. So
Yep.
I hope your car is a vehicle.
Yeah.
I mean, your car's a library.
yeah, library. It's the vehicle, the library, the vehicle that can, you know.
Yeah, learning vehicle.
Yeah, learning vehicle, that's better, but.
Yeah, but I would say that should definitely be at the top of people's list to read, is How to Win Friends and Influence People. Yeah, but then from there, so after you know, I started reading books like that. Then I read Rich Dad Poor Dad eventually, and then you know. You guys know the story, but you know, Logan reaches out, says, "Hey, you're interested?" Yes. And then I was like, if I'm going to do it, then Tony's got to be in it. So then we all got started that way. And then, just started off with 2 of us with a goal to get to 80 rentals. And then the goal changed about midway through, and we decided that we wanted to bring other people on and really start flipping and wholesaling. And
have you been thinking about investing in real estate?
It's not like what you see on HGTV.
We created a course to show you how to really invest and create a profitable flipping and wholesaling business.
We show you where to find the money, how to find the deals, and how to negotiate the deals.
We go over live sales calls, including negotiations, scripts, role-playing, and so much more.
Everything that you need to know to flip houses is in this course. And if there's a video that we didn't make that you want, we'll make it for you.
This knowledge has made us well over $1 million, and it's available right now for $9.97. Click the link below.
Buy the course.
now we're all here. Now you guys are here doing a podcast.
Yes, sir. One thing I noticed you guys kept saying over and over again is the word influence. So I just wanted to know, to get to this point, who are the 3 most influential people in your life that got you to be who you are today? They don't even have to know you. It could be someone that wrote a book, but who are some people that really influenced you to who you are?
The big folks who I connected with on YouTube was first Elliot Halls. He's gotten a little bit more radical at this point. He's more difficult to follow. I don't even watch his videos anymore, but he used to post a video a day. And he was that guy who, like, whenever he would post a video, I'd watch it start to finish. So Elliot was the first guy. And then I feel like my values shifted, and then Jordan Peterson gave me some answers to some questions that, like, I already knew the answer, but I didn't know how to articulate it. He's so good at figuring out how to answer a question in such a way, like, he's really long-winded like I am, but he answers the question in such a way that it's elegant, beautiful, but also you completely understand the entire concept by the time he's done talking. And then I'm trying to think of who the last one would be.
I can think of 2 as well.
Yeah. Well, I've got a lot on my wall when it comes to people who have influenced me in the past, and like I would say it's got to be a split between somebody like Gary Brecka, because I love his stuff. Tim Ferriss was a huge one for me early on. And then, man, maybe even Grant Cardone, as far as like guys who kind of changed some things for me. Ed Milet is another good one. I know that one's a lot bigger for Dakota. I feel like I'm a combination of like 12 dudes that I used to follow all the time.
Yeah,
That's okay.
I would say for me is definitely Ed Milet is number 1. I mean, I've listened to him for 7 years, and he exemplifies a lot of what I do. I feel like he's like a very, very structured, good business guy, but he also cares a lot about his family, his faith, and he's very like, he just cares a lot. It's funny because I feel like I am more like Grant, and I want to be more like Ed. Like, I'd rather be more like Ed, and that is more of like the way that I want to be, but I feel like I automatically, my default is for me to be more like Grant, more like assertive, more like confrontational, and like that's my go-to, but it's not who I want to be. That's like, I don't want to be that guy, but I would say Ed Milet is definitely very influential. Dude, the funny thing is, and I'm not just saying that because you're the interviewer, but your dad, Nate Mosley, was very influential in my life, and yeah, when I was, 18. Jeez.
Good.
When I was 18, I was struggling with like my faith, and I just remember asking a lot of hard questions. And he was like one of the few people that was like willing to answer some hard questions. Most people are like, oh man, you just gotta have faith and blind faith and all this stuff. But wow, he was actually like there to like be like, no, like here's some different thoughts and some different ways, and really help me work through it. It's like, dude, faith is not an illogical thing. Like it does make sense, and here's a different way to think about it. And he was really there and like actually willing to answer questions. And like I don't think that I would have came to faith without God putting him in my life. So yeah, I would say that he is definitely very, very influential. And man, number 3. Those are the first 2 that come to mind. They were like huge. I would say those are the 2 big ones. I mean, obviously, like Tony said, there's a lot of other people that influence Grant Cardone, all those different Rich Dad, Poor Dad, so Robert Kiyosaki. I mean, all the people that I listen to, Bigger Pockets, all of that stuff. I mean, obviously, real estate's changed a lot of my life as well, and where we're at today. I mean, when I watched Grant Cardone, literally on that Undercover Billionaire, that was a show that he did, and then he started hiring people, and that was what like initiated the thought as well. And then Ryan Pineda, I mean, we basically modeled our business off of Ryan Pineda, so he's been a huge influence. So yeah, I would say that just like Tony, the last one is a huge combination of a lot of different people that has kind of like helped with the business mindset. But Ed helps with relationships, with like managing everything, and then Nate really helped me with my faith, and then everybody else is kind of mixture that I just learned from to help me with sales and with business and with all that other stuff.
I got some honorable mentions here too.
Okay.
Andrew Huberman's pretty awesome. I love a lot of his stuff. David Goggins, whenever I need that push to get out of bed in the morning, or like to get down in that cold water. And then for a female influence, I'd say Marie Forleo for a minute. Like right after her 10X, I started watching all of her stuff. She has some really great things to say. And then Jesse Itzler, he just puts things in such a way that like they're so relatable, because he seems so like kind-hearted, genuine. He's like wealthy and funny about his wealth too. Like he's just all over the place, charismatic guy, but also he can like get you to go to that place where you're like, oh shit, I forgot what's important. Let me remember real quick. So
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And then kind of like going off of that, obviously, like, the people that are influential to you guys in your past have got you to like where you're at now. Going back to that, when people like you get looked up to them, or they give you all this advice and different things like that, how do you know what to do with what the other person says to you? Like, what made you guys like take action on all those mentors and people you guys looked up to from like the beginning to like, what made you like, what was that like moment where you're just like, here's like the switch, or like, here's, I'm gonna take that next step to like implement these things into my life that like I'm trying to figure out or like get to?
I think it comes from doing, because like Dakota came to me back in high school and was like, hey man, I want to like build some muscle and stuff. I was like, here's this workout that I gave to like 4 other people and they all quit. They were like, yeah, screw that, dude. That sucks. I'm not doing that for very long. Dakota did it for like 2 months and put on like 10 pounds real quick because his body wasn't used to that amount of volume, and he hadn't really done strength training and stuff before. And so, like you said, like the people who helped us get to where we're at, it's like, man, I don't know. I think we got to where we're at because we did the work.
Correct.
And we allowed them to kind of like help us make adjustments to the ship, just like, Jay Redding, one of our mentors, talks about, like, it's a lot easier to help somebody steer a ship if it's already moving. If it's not moving, then like they're just kind of wasting their own time. They're wasting your time.
Right.
Like, mindset without skill set is delusion. If they're doing
100%.
nothing, then
Yeah, I would say for me, I always just run it through a filter. Like, okay, this person's telling me They have their own baggage, their own things. They have their own successes, and what are they, like? What is it that they're telling me here? So then I just run it through me. Okay, where am I going? What am I trying to accomplish? Is it similar to what they're trying to accomplish? If they said this was what worked for them and they're where I want to be at, then I'm like, okay, what are the steps that they took to get there? And is that a life that I want to live in that area? And then I basically put it through that filter of like, what do I want for my life? And that's the most important question that you have to ask yourself first before you ever decide, like, okay, I'm gonna take this advice. Be like, okay, where they're at, is that where I want to be at as well in that area? And so that's what I always think that I run the filter through, is like, okay, is this true? Is this actually going to help me? Is this what helped them? Is that where I want to be at? And I just kind of run it through all of those different filters in my life and make sure that it's like aligning with who I am and where I want to go, because that's what I see a lot of other people do too, is they see a goal, they see something that they want, they go out, they get it, and then it was like never who they were or what they wanted, or it went against their values. I see a lot of people who chase money and it goes against their values in order to get it, and then they lost who they were, and then they end up depressed. It's like, dude, if you have to go against your values in order to get something that you want, it's not worth it. And so ask yourself that. I remember I was actually just listening to another guy that talked at a small event that I was at, and I heard the guy, and he was talking about, I thought that he was talking about his partner and how he's like, yeah, I have friends, and then, you know, like, I kind of took advantage of this guy. Like, he was kind of like bragging about it. I found out that that was not what he was saying, but I thought that was what he was saying. And I was like, dude, at that point, I almost checked out, because I'm like, dude, our values don't align. Like, you value that money, that other stuff, more than you value, like, or you value money more than you value your friendships and all that stuff. So then I can't align. I can't listen as much unless I align with their values and with what they're saying about it. So like, if they're giving me business advice and they're willing to screw people over and stuff, I'm like, dude, I'm just not willing to do that. So I would say first, before you ever like take advice or anything, go deep down and say, okay, what is important to me? What are my values? And like order them. And I know this is a thing that they do in NLP, is they literally order the values. What's number one? What's number two? What's number three? Like put them in order of importance. And then if you ever like, and I think money is important, but it's like, I would consider money one of the values, but money is never over truth. Money is never over ethics. Money is like, and you guys have seen that, which is why we've done well. It's never over our word. It's never over anything like that. So I would like align those things, find out what it is, and then like take the advice and filter it through who you guys are.
Definitely. 100%.
What's funny too is like, of the people who I like idolized, there was never anybody who I was like, oh, I want their life.
Right.
Like, you know, I like the lead singer of Slipknot. I did not want to like that was like so cool to me from like, you know, senior year to like freshman of college. I was like, I want to be a rock star. And then I started thinking about it, and I was like, that is not the life that I want actually. And then you know, you look at people like Jordan Peterson, like that guy is depressed. He helps so many people, but like he's got the same vices as a lot of like really great psychiatrists, psychologists throughout history, where like the reason why he's so good at it is because he's had to live with himself for so long. He's got a lot going on. I don't want to be him. I don't want to be Elliot Hulse. I don't even think I really want to be Ryan Pineda. Like, I don't know if I want 14 companies like he's got doing all the different things that he's doing. Well, I was thinking about it though, and I was like, who would I want to be like? Guy that I didn't mention is Chris Crone. I like his setup because he's like, I work 20 to 30 hours, and he talks about how he maximizes his schedule. So he's all about looking at partnerships, he has franchises, he's got a jet, he can go anywhere in the world that he wants to. He's homeschooling his kids. He basically took his values and then was like, okay, stop my business, put the brakes on everything, shut everything down. I want to create the life that I want. How can I do that? And he like reverse organized everything. So as I was just thinking about it, Chris Crone says
he talks about leasing everything too. Like
he sleeps like midnight to 4 a.m. every day, but that is crazy. Like he does get to maximize his life then. Like if he's only working 20 to 30 hours a week, then he really does spend like 6 hours with his kids every day. He really does spend like 2 hours in the gym.
I saw that reel that he posted of him talking about his like daily routine and schedule. But I like him too because he just seems super down to earth. He's like very real about like, here's what you can do, or like he's very realistic what he's like putting out there on social media from what I've seen. But like going off of what you guys said, one thing that I struggled with, like when I started or like getting into stuff, is like when somebody would tell me something, I thought whatever advice they were giving me is like I had to take their advice and believe every single thing they said, and I tried taking what they told me and like doing exactly what they said instead of like I was getting the wrong the advice from like the wrong people of like the answer that I was looking for, like the direction I was wanting to go. And like I don't think until I started like getting up here and getting around my uncle and other people, and I kind of started that entrepreneurial journey, I was just taking advice or asking the wrong people that have never done it. And then I was like, you know, like questioning myself of like, what do they know? Or like I was just so confused. So I think that has definitely helped like all of us from being up here, just like getting advice from the right people that care about you, that want you to succeed, and that have already experienced and done it. And like I was trying to get advice from people that haven't done it, and like they were the answer instead of like you said, have that filter. Like listen to what they're saying, and then like, you know, if it doesn't align with your goals or values, then like you don't need to listen to that or take their advice. But if it's going to align with your values or like what you're kind of looking for, then you can have that conversation deeper.
Pulling data lists like vacant houses, mortgage foreclosures, and tax delinquent properties is important to direct-to-seller marketing.
Batch Leads is the main platform where we store our sellers' data and skip trace owners for their phone numbers, emails, and addresses.
On other platforms, you end up having to pay twice for the same contact if you've already skip traced it. My favorite thing about Batch Leads is that if you skip traced a contact once, you never have to pay for that contact again.
Batch Leads has SMS texting campaigns, direct mail marketing, and Driving for Dollars app integrated in a simple-to-use interface.
Click the link below and try Batch Leads today.
Yeah, and most of the time, that's exactly what I'm going to say. And when you ask me a question, I'm like, oh, okay, well, let's go back to you. Because, like, you're asking the question, maybe not for the answer.
Yeah.
Maybe you haven't thought about why you're even asking the question. And it's like, you know, you got to go back way further than just the answer. I can give you the answer, but if, like, the answer, like, gets you further away from where you want to go and you're climbing the wrong mountain and you don't even realize it, then, like, you got to go back to a further question, which I feel like a lot of people forget. They ask a question, they want the answer so bad, but they don't think about, what is the point?
Yeah, like what are you good at? What's it like do longevity wise? And I think too, going off that like that, you've helped me with that a bunch because like I come to you because I'm like so just I always want people to like hold my hand or like guide me or like, you know, like I feel more comfortable doing it that way. And like you guys have pushed me a lot, and all of us in here just be like you're your own person, like you choose what you want, you choose the life you want to live, like you choose the thoughts and feelings you want to feel. So like that's been a huge like benefit of growing up and just like growing within a bigger growing organization, which is nice because I feel like people like during like life or a normal corporate job or whatever it may be, like you're not in there to learn anything, or you're not getting any like value, just working for a paycheck. So like to have somebody actually, and like you're asking people in there for stuff that they don't even know. And I feel like personally, like people that are just working a normal job or doing like that sort of lifestyle, like they don't even know what they want. So once you get around a group of people that know what they actually want, what their values are, and you can align those together and then individually, and then like you said, do those things, which thank God for Coach Kelly because he's helping all of us with that. But then we can just all grow as like better people and then help each other out. But it's like realistic. It's not like fake. It's a real live actual thing, which is like very, very irreplaceable.
Yeah, one thing I want to say about that is you said knowing what you want, and I wouldn't say that we know.
Yeah.
What I would say is we continue to search. And we continue to go reevaluate, because I'm not going to, like, dude, I always tell people that, I'm like, I'm not going to say that I know what I want. Everybody sees me a lot of like, oh, you know what you want and you're going after. Like, I've always had that. Yeah, exactly. You have it figured out. Yeah. And I don't. I never have, and I never will, but I'm continuing to search. Just because I have not figured it out or, like, you know, have been still working on it doesn't mean that I'm not going to pursue it, because it is getting me closer to who I'm supposed to be and who I'm meant to be, but it doesn't mean that I have it figured out. It's like we're in pursuit of it all the time, and that's what I always ask people to do is, how do you get in the pursuit of it? How do you get closer to the person that you're meant to be, the person that you want to be? Again, like I talked about earlier, I feel like I'm more like Grant, but I don't want to be. I want to be more like Ed. So how do I do that? How do I do that with my actions? How do I do that with my daily life? And so it's not like I figured it out. It's more like I'm figuring it out, and we're figuring it out, and we're figuring it out together. And I think whenever you go from that context, it's easier to help other people, because a lot of times you get in the judgment side of like, oh, well, you're not where I'm at. Yeah, you're not, because we're all figuring it out, and I'm not where other people are because I'm still figuring it out, and everybody's figuring it out. And anybody who thinks they got it figured out then looks at everybody lower than them as like a less than, and like that's not the way that I view anybody. Is because I feel like we're all in the same boat. We're all just figuring it out.
Yeah, no, 100%. Just one thing going off of that real quick, it's like people, like I've experienced that too, like just throughout high school or being way younger and like making the money I have, or like being around the people I have, or like things like that. People are like, you haven't figured out, dude, like you're this or you're that, or like you won't hang out with me now because I'm like this lower level person or whatever. Like that's like, you're not necessarily like a lower level person, it's just you haven't experienced or like chose to do the things that like I have, or like
That you align with.
Yeah, that align with. So like I've got down to that, like people say like when you start growing or changing your life and you have a vision for like something bigger than yourself, that you're going to lose like people that you were friends with along the way, or like people that you talked to in high school or college or whatever it may be. And I've noticed that recently and like throughout the last couple of years of my life from being up here, and just the growth is like I've seen like who's there for me and who's not, and I've seen like the values and different things like that. But people want to put like a negative emotion or like a negative burden on you because of what you chose to do with your values and stuff, or like where you were aligning to where you wanted to be with who you surrounded yourself with. And it's very interesting how people think that way and then put this negative emotion or like perspective on you of what they think you are, when like you know
They don't know you.
They don't know you.
I literally just had somebody do that to me, literally today, right before we talked
I
about
had
that.
it yesterday. It happened to me like yesterday, 2 days ago. I was asking somebody like, hey, like you want to come up and see my new house or just come visit or whatever. And it's just like, oh, you haven't talked to me, or
That's
this
exactly
or
what
that.
they said to me.
You haven't talked to me, and like you know what you did to me, and like have fun with all that money, and like that money's never gonna.
That's
like,
exactly
whatever.
what
You're
they
gonna
said
lose
to me.
You're gonna lose all your friends and just chasing this money, and like have fun with that money. Hopefully you sleep better at night. And I'm just like.
So
this is like
what that is. So what that is actually their insecurities, their issues and stuff that they're now putting on you. But I had the same exact thing literally happen to me. So I reached out to somebody who I was going to talk to about something completely different, and then they basically said that like, oh well, you weren't there for me and you haven't reached out in a couple months and stuff. I'm like, okay. I'm living a life too, and like I want to be there for people, and like I am. If anybody's there for me, like you guys know,
100%.
if you ask for me, I'm there.
Yeah.
If you need help, I'm there. But like I always put it on the person there, and like if I see somebody struggling, obviously I'm gonna say something. And I'm like, hey, I'm noticing this, but I can't see everybody all the time. Like
Right.
it's insane. But anyway, he said that same exact thing. Same thing to me of like, hey, you weren't there, so have a good life. He literally said, have a good life. And then he started saying stuff about, oh, you're money and you're this and you're that. And I'm like, that's very interesting that you perceive me that way.
Yeah.
Because that's not the way that I am at all. And then the interesting thing is the people who think that I'm that way, and I always ask everybody, whenever they're like, well, I heard this about you, I heard that about you. It's like, were they very close to me?
Yeah.
No, they weren't. So anybody that's close to me knows I'm not about money. They know that money is important to me and it matters. But dude, you look at how much money that we give away like so freely and like to everybody. And even like the situation with Luis, it's just like, well, we'll do what's right. That's like, it was like $3,000.
Right.
There you go. We'll give you what's right.
Sure.
Like we're gonna do what we said. So yeah, it's obviously not about money. It's about their own perception that's really being clouded.
Are you letting deals fall through the cracks because you don't have good systems in place?
We've been there before, and honestly, we've tried several different CRMs, and RE Simply has been the absolute best.
RE Simply tracks your KPIs, does automatic follow-ups for you, and even records incoming phone calls.
The system is very easy to use, and honestly, it has more features than we even know what to do with.
If you're looking for a great CRM, try RE Simply today.
Click the link in the description below.
Check it out now.
And that's the thing too, is like the money comes with that, but it's like the person you're creating yourself to be every day, or like the things you're putting yourself through, or like the daily just lifestyle. People just see the end result of the money, or like real estate's money, or whatever it may be, or just like seeing your results or success or post or like whatever it may be, and they're judging that or judging you, and then putting money behind it as like a bad thing. But then it's like, if they had that, then like what are they going to do now? If they experience that, like who are you going to be now as a person? So like the money is just a thing, like there to like help generate to like the vehicle to like go further. But like it's like the only way that's gonna come is like if you're growing yourself. Like you can just be like the worst person ever and like make a lot of money, but it can go away like that. You can know nothing about money or how to manage it, get a lot of it, go away like that. So it's just, again, like you said, values, aligning the vision of like what do you actually want with your life.
I only end friendships if their values don't align with me. If they're straight up values, if I'm like, dude, you're now dishonest, you're this, you're that. All right, well, hey, like, unfortunately, I can't be friends with you anymore. But I've seen, like, you know, there's like this friendship, like, it's hard because this is what I'll say about this, and then we can go on to another subject. So
Okay.
we've been going on this one a lot, but we've been. I noticed that these people who are feeling this way are actually hurting, and that's what I have to remember is like these people are hurting, and then they like felt like they weren't like, you know, loved, and so then they lash out by saying that, and then they're pushing away, like they're doing it to themselves, but at the same time, like that's what they really want is to be loved and cared for. So I want to remind myself of that, but then also like if somebody else pushes away, then I'm more like, okay, hey, you know, let me know when you're ready, and I hope you have a good life too. So like, come back to me if you're interested. And I would love to have a relationship with you, but I will actually end a friendship if like if you continue. Like, one is a big one for me is lying. So if you lie to me and you continue to lie, if you lie to me and then you admit that you lied, dude, like it happens. We lie to each other. We do that stuff, and it's okay. But like, let me know that you lied. Like, yeah, dude, I lied. I'm sorry. Like, you know, say that. And like, it'll be okay. But whenever you continue to like say stuff, then and that's why I think Tony and I have been good friends for so long, is because like, you know, we don't agree on a lot of different things and we live different lives, but like our values to the core of like loyalty, truth, honesty, authenticity, like those values I think are pretty much very close in a line with like, they're very high on our list, it seems like. What are your top three? Well, now I'm interviewing.
No, it's okay.
I think I have my life values in here. I mean, one of the main ones was that I think it kind of came from like a negative standpoint almost, but is autonomy. So that's more of a negative value where like the reason why I want autonomy is so that...
What is autonomy?
Well, my definition was like, so that nobody can tell me what to do. So it's more about freedom.
That's why we're such good friends, because I don't tell anybody what to do.
But a positive potential future is actually my first one. So knowing that like whatever I'm doing, and that was one that I didn't have that developed yet because I couldn't really see if LTD was gonna pay off in the beginning, and so I was like less certain, and that was tougher. Like a positive potential future, personal growth and development is number 2. Number 3 on my life is Presley, and number 4 is autonomy.
Nice.
Gotcha.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. Just going off of like your guys' values and stuff, obviously to keep your values and reach your goals, you have to instill some principles or disciplines into your life to help you, you know, stay in line with those values or reach the goals that you want to reach. So I just wanted to ask you guys, what principles or I guess discipline or action that you take in your life, what has helped you reach this point? I know we've talked a little bit about it, but just more on a day-to-day basis, like what do you do that helps you achieve what you want to achieve?
I would say... You can I've been talking a lot. You can
I've got canvases all up on my wall in my house, and so I can just like go through all those canvases because I feel like each one is like is meaningful to me. Warren Buffett's is my favorite, and he just says the best investment you can make is in yourself. And so anytime there's like a course, a class, or whatever, I'm willing to consider this perspective and add it to my tools and strategies to create a better me. And then there's another one that reminds me to get out of fear. It reminds me to get out of fear and like to have more fun. And it's from Rick and Morty, and it's just to live is to risk it all. And so that one's like the thing that gets me motivated to jump out of a plane, because it was really difficult for me to go skydiving the first time. The second time was a little bit better. And then
what about the one thing when you were going through that one thing of putting how many days you had left on the earth?
Oh yeah. That one's valuable. I just did it for a little while, and then I gauged my mood and that sort of thing, and then I was like, I don't know if that is helping me, so I took it off.
Okay.
That was something that I did for a while, but I'm just like, I don't know if it's helping me right now. So it wasn't serving me anymore. I decided to stop doing it. There's an Elon Musk one. I tried to give it to Dakota. He wasn't as interested because it's like Elon had just got done smoking pot when he was on the Joe Rogan podcast. But I like the philosophy, and it's like sometimes, I love mindset stuff and that sort of thing. But his his message was like optimism, pessimism, like fuck that, we're gonna do it regardless. Like when you're certain about something and you're headed in a direction and you know that you're gonna accomplish it, at some point you're just like, I'm in it for the results.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, things fall apart. Like I was talking about this PSI event we're having tomorrow. And I'm like, everything's falling apart and coming together because it's happening at the same time.
Yeah.
It's going to happen no matter what. I'm committed to it. Like, doesn't matter if I feel good or I feel bad about it. Like, I'm going to get there and put on the mask and the curtains are going to open. And it's going to be like a musical theater performance. Like,
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
there being the character, doing the thing, delivering the performance to these people because I fucking said I was going to do it.
Yeah.
So those are a few for me.
Gotcha. That's awesome.
I like that.
Yeah, what I'd say for me that's like gotten me to the point, there's a lot of different things that I think about that I do that's a little bit different than other people. One is definitely going to be my discipline, which I know is like one of the things that you said is like, what are your disciplines? And I'll get into that. But I would say just having discipline in general, regardless of how I feel. I've been through a lot of different things, and like I've had times that I don't even want to be here sometimes, and then it's like I'm gonna do it anyway. I'm gonna be here. I'm gonna show up, and I'm gonna give it like my all for that day. And it might look different, like my 6 might look different than my 10, but at the same time, I'm gonna show up and I'm gonna give whatever I have for that day, which might be a 10 for that day. So that's something that I feel like I do, and like I would say that this is like one area that I do it really well. Sometimes it's not as good with like relationships and stuff like that. I feel like I sometimes don't give the relationship everything that I possibly could that day, which might be why I struggle in that. Whenever I don't want to, I choose to not do certain things in a relationship. So it's interesting how you know what to do a lot of times and then we choose not to do it. Same thing with like working out. So there's been a lot of times I don't feel like working out. That's something I've done consistently my entire life of working out. Is like since I was probably like, I don't know, 12 to 14, somewhere around there. Since then, I just done that. So that's something that I've done consistently. Being truthful just to myself and like just like choosing truth overall. So like that's helped me to evaluate life. Okay, what is the truth in this situation? What is the truth about it? And being honest with yourself. What was my intentions? What was I doing this for? Was I being manipulative? And then when people give me feedback, it's like, okay, let me run this through my truth meter. And then like, as you grow, the better you get at that, because before everybody's out to get you and it's all about like, them just trying to hold you down and all this stuff. Then you start to realize, maybe there's some truth to what they were saying. It's not all the way the truth. And I took that, that's not all the way true. And then I flip it. And I was really good at that. But then it's like, okay, how much of that is true? It's not necessarily black and white of, that's either true or it's not true. It's like how much of what they said is true and how much is not, and start to really depicting that. But I would say that that's helped me a lot with my daily disciplines on like, I'm not just going to like take things at surface level and like, oh, yep, that makes sense. Okay, I believe that. No, I'm going to really like think about that and see if that actually makes sense, which goes into strategy. I strategize every single day of like, okay, does this make sense? How am I going to get what I want? How am I going to strategize my life to live this certain way? That's something that I do all the time. But the biggest thing that I would say is like learning growth. Like that's something that I'm always interested in, learning and growing. But the biggest thing that I feel like that I do that have made me the confident person that I am is not losing myself in pursuit of what I want. I will not choose to go and put myself in a situation where I have to be dishonest, where I have to feel like I'm lying, where I have to feel like I'm manipulating, where I have to feel like I'm going against who I am in order to make other people happy. I'm just not willing to do that. And I think that has been the biggest thing that has helped me to like do what I want to do in my life, because I'm just not willing to. And I tell people that even in friendships, I'm like, dude, like I want a friendship with everybody. I want to be friends with everybody. But if that means that like you want me to change who I am in order for you to like me, I'm not willing to do that. And I'm not willing to do that for anybody. If I choose that I want to be different, then that's okay. I'll choose my difference, and I can take your input to say, hey, I don't like this about you. And I might look at myself and say, do I like that about me? And then I decide if I want to change or not. But if somebody's like, hey, I don't like this and I want you to change this, and I decide not to, that's when maybe a friendship will end. But I would say those are some of the things that I do in my daily life that's like helped me really be the person that I am and able to accomplish the things that I've been able to accomplish, because I know who I am, and I don't have a problem with like letting people know it. And if they don't like me, that's okay. And if they do, then like, dude, we're gonna be really good friends.
Yeah, I really respect that.
I just thought of another canvas that I got. It's just a picture of Khabib looking up. And I just love the way that Khabib fought in the UFC, and then he would always say, like, stay humble, brother. Like, nobody stays on top in this game forever. He was talking about fighting,
Right.
but he just meant that, like, only God gets to decide if you win or you lose. I do all the work I can to, like, give God the most, like, the most motivation to award me as the winner, but, like, ultimately, we're still just people.
Yeah,
Like,
100%.
we're spiritual beings having a human experience. There's nothing that guarantees your success.
Yep. Yeah, reminding yourself of what's important is definitely huge too. Of like, that's actually, I mean, that's part of like who you are. Of like, is exactly what Tony's talking about. Remind yourself of who you are and whose you are. And if you remind yourself of what's important, then you realize, like you said, the money, this stuff, like everything that we think is so important in the moment, then you realize, oh gosh, like in the grand scheme of things, it's really not as important as like, you know, the love, the care, how we do things. It's not about what we do, it's how we do the things that we do, in my opinion. So that's kind of what I mean by being honest and truthful and like values and all that stuff. It's like, it's not about what we accomplish, what we do, which I still think is important. I think everybody should go out there and accomplish as much as you can possibly accomplish, but don't do it at the sacrifice of you changing your values or like not being aligned with who you are and like, yeah, like going against God or whatever you believe in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've felt that a lot because like I've lost a lot of friends just because like I've just like have such more of a bigger picture of just like what I actually want to go for now. And now I'm in a spot where it's just like I can really maximize on that. And I've lost friends along the way because I felt like I had to change myself or like I had to do something that like I didn't feel was right just for them to like me. And then deep down, like it just didn't align with like who I actually wanted to become as a person, who I was like being in that moment. So like I've lost a lot of friends from just that stuff, but it's not for like the worse, it's for the better. Because like at the end of the day, you gotta do what's best for you. But I'm not gonna switch myself for like my morals or values just to like be friends with a person for what reason or like what kind of value am I gonna get from that, just to go down the wrong path, to like not go to like the path that like I want to go, just to make that other person happy or whatever it may be. But
I just had a random thought. I want to throw in a random story. Dakota had this guy who was a doctor ask him when he was going to finish his education. So Dakota's making pretty good money in car sales, and he was like, when are you going to finish your education? Because Dakota said that he just graduated high school, and Dakota's thinking like, I'm done. But I think what would have been an even better response is like, never. I'm never going to be done learning, man. It's like a Grant Cardone response, but like to me, for some reason that popped in my head when you started talking about some of the things you were talking about earlier, and I was just like, oh, that would have been perfect.
Yeah. I don't remember that doctor or anything like that or having the conversation, but yeah, that's definitely something that I see is like it was like Rich Dad Poor Dad. I didn't even know that I loved to learn until I got out of school, because that's when I found out that I actually do like to learn. I do want to grow.
Yep.
In school, I thought that was the only way. And so like, dude, I don't like to learn.
yeah.
I thought.
That's how I felt. Like I was like, I hate reading books. I hate all this stuff. But I feel like recently, the last couple months, and you guys have been very influential with it, and Kelly has, and like, you know, just now that we're growing bigger, of just like, if I want to get to this certain level, or if I want to level up in my life, or if I want to take these different positions, or like if I want to like, you know, keep going with this, like I'm gonna have to do some more personal development, or I'm gonna have to like do some more, you know, reading, or just like do these different things that I know I enjoy doing and have done it before, but it's just one of those sacrifices you got to make to, you know, go to the next level. Or if I want to be this high value person, or like be like these people I like look up to, I'm gonna have to do like these daily things. And I realize when I'm not doing it, like I'm fighting myself, because I know that aligns with my vision, but I'm fighting myself to like having these emotions in my head of just not wanting to do it. But then when I do it, I like feel better, and I'm like, okay, I learned a lot from this, or like I got a couple things from here that I can implement here, just like different things like that. I feel like the mindset has switched in like the last couple months, and I've like felt more positive about, you know, being who I am, or just being around other people. I feel like I can have better quality conversations with my relationships.
Yeah, one word I would say to reevaluate is sacrifice. So it's interesting if you just replace that with invest.
Invest.
Yeah, hey, I'm sacrificing. No, I'm investing. I'm investing in myself. I'm investing in my future. You know.
Yeah, I think invest is even closer. I was going to say enjoy, but I noticed that too with your words right away, like neuro-linguistic programming. I was like, sacrifice.
Yeah.
I guess, yeah, sacrifice, like doing whatever it takes to like there's a positive emotion at the end of it, but like there's like I got to sacrifice. So I got to do things I'm uncomfortable with.
Yeah.
To better myself, even though I'm like investing into myself. But yeah, I have a question like specific for Tony. I was thinking about it yesterday. How did you like manage having Presley early on, and still managing like business? Like what kind of emotions did you feel? Like what were some of the struggles? Like were you uncertain or have any like confusion on like, okay, I'm getting ready to have my first child, my daughter, and then we're also running this business or like getting started in it. Like what made you like take action while still having the daughter? How'd you manage your emotions and like overcome that stuff?
So I did a terrible job.
Yeah.
I had a panic attack like maybe a week before because the AmeriCorps, I feel like I was starting to get tired of bureaucracy, rules, structure, that sort of thing. And that's what AmeriCorps was. It was a government service program. They had uniforms. You had to wear them to the trainings. And the trainings were just people talking. But they wanted you in full uniform with your work boots on, with your belt on, with your shirt tucked in. And then I was staying up late because I was meeting new people. And then if you like tried to sleep or anything like during the trainings, they'd like tap you on the shoulder and be like, hey, go stand up at the back of the room. They didn't even let you sleep on the desk. Like you had to go stand up at the back of the room so that you wouldn't fall asleep. And then I was drinking a lot of coffee in order to make up for the lack of sleep, and I ended up on a very large antibiotic, and so my body was kind of in like a panic mode. And then anxiety-wise, I kept feeling like tightness in my throat and like a disconnect between who I was and where I was. Like I wasn't anywhere that was aligning with my values, and so I had a panic attack. I was laying down. I was like, my unit leader was talking about why he chose all of us. Like he was going through why he chose each one of us to lead the teams. And I was sitting there like with bronchitis and like a sinus infection. I could barely breathe out of my nose or my mouth.
Man.
And like my throat was getting really tight. And I was like looking up at the corner of the room like, I was like, I can't breathe. I can't breathe. So I laid down on the couch and they brought the EMS eventually, and they had me at like 120 beats per minute laying down. My like pinky and my ring finger went numb on both hands, and I was shaking and stuff. And they were like, hey bud, this is all in your mind. It's not. I was like, what? I thought I was dying or like having a seizure or something. They're like, no, it's you're just mentally, emotionally, you're just very stressed, and you need to take it easy. So got with this girl that I was enjoying the company of. We went on a walk. There's like -3 degrees in Iowa. It just sucks. Like everything's flat, so there's nothing to block the wind. So we came back in after like 5 minutes, and the entire thing had a tunnel system too. So I just felt like claustrophobic and stuff. But then like 2 days later, my baby mama called me. And she was someone that I never intended to get pregnant. But then an older gentleman was like, oh, what? You don't know how that works? Like, as a joke. So, I had sex with my ex-girlfriend, and she told me that, like, there was no way it could have been anybody else, that it was definitely me, because she hadn't slept with anybody else. And so then I was in this government service program. I had to decide if I was going to come back home or not. And I talked to my dad, I talked to my mom, I talked to my ex. I was on the fence about just leaving the program. But then I knew that ultimately I didn't want to be with her. And I was like, I'm going to use this program as an opportunity to like learn how to take responsibility, be a father. And I really learned how to be a manager, how to be a supervisor. They called us a team leader. We weren't really leaders. We were managers, supervisors, getting great at paperwork, understanding how to like manage people's emotions and stuff, because it was 18 and 24-year-olds, and I wasn't even the oldest one. And I was the team leader, so I was managing people who were older than me. And during that experience, after I got back, and my daughter was born a month early, she had to go to Riley Children's Hospital because her lungs weren't working at all. I was just like, man, I don't even know if I want this child, which is like a tough thing to say as a dad now, because I wouldn't give it up for anything.
Right.
And at the time, I still didn't know what I wanted. I was like, maybe I'll go to California and do something with fitness. I was like, maybe I'll get out of Indiana. Maybe I'll go do something different with my life and that sort of thing. But after I got back from AmeriCorps, took some responsibility, started seeing my daughter regularly, I was like, I have to figure out how to provide for her and like pay child support and that sort of thing. So tried a lot of different jobs and learned a little bit of sales. I mean, I did car sales for a little bit. I wasn't great at it, but I like learned the principles behind of sales, learned some principles behind of marketing. That's where our bandit signs came from, was JD Byrider. I mean, they use bandit signs a lot. Nice. So started studying the science and strategy behind a winning, and then was very fortunate to have a friend like Dakota and got into real estate.
Nice.
Well, Dakota, I think what Andrew's question to Tony, I think that could apply to you. I think you went through something pretty hard in your life right before this all started. I don't know if you're real public with it, but how did you manage, that situation while also starting up a, as of today, successful company?
I think you're referring to the divorce.
Yeah. I didn't want to say it and it be awkward or anything, but I'm pretty sure you're pretty public about it.
Yeah. So I was in car sales, working a lot of hours there, working every Saturday. Working 60 hours a week. Like I said, I was working a lot since I was 18, and I was married. And, again, I grew up super poor, and so I always thought, you make six figures, and your life's going to be great. Like you're considered wealthy, and everything's just going to fall into place. And that's kind of what it felt like. And it also felt like a lot of my trauma and, like, the negative things that happened to me when I was young, and at least that's the way it was in my mind. All right, those things happen, and then, life happens to everybody, and the bad stuff happened when you're younger, and then now life's going to be really good. That's kind of the way that I thought in my mind, and I was proving myself right by continuing, things just started going well, I was working a job, I, was just, stepping, then I had an awesome wife, and, I thought my life was perfect. Then, so it was right in the midst of all that the company started, actually. Okay. So we had, just started at that point. I think I don't know if we did our first flip. It was right around the time of the first flip. I don't remember if you remember if we were done with it or if we had 3 rentals or, I don't remember where it was at in it all, but it was right around all the same time that we opened the company. I think that's what really frustrated her, too, was that, she's like, wait a second. So not only do you not have time now, but then you're going to start another company. And then in my mind, that's the solution. It's like, okay, hey, I'm working a lot of hours now, making good money. That life's great. But obviously I want to spend time with you too. So if I do this company, work really hard, it's going to give me more free time. She wasn't willing to wait, it seemed like. And obviously I abandoned her and emotionally. And so I wasn't there for her. I wasn't listening. I wasn't very receptive to feedback to her feelings, and I would tell her more about how she should feel as opposed to how she does feel. So I definitely had some opportunities in that. While all that was going on, and then she finally left me, then at that point, I went straight into working real hard. I thought I worked hard before. Well, dude, I was just like, all right, well, I'm feeling like garbage, so let me just not think about it at all, and let me just go straight into work. So then I started working even more and pushing even harder, and it kind of numbed my pain. So I always talk about there's a healthy way to recover and there's a negative way to recover. Some people go to alcohol, they go to drugs, they go to different things. I went to work into working out, and so that was the way that I fixed my life.
So it's a distraction.
Exactly, distraction. Okay. And so I think that people can have healthy distractions, and other people will give you pats on the back of hey, good job. You're looking real ripped, you're looking jacked, and hey, good job. You're building this business and stuff. And inside you're suffering, and nobody really knows it because you're just masking and you're hiding your emotions with positive things that other people will give you affirmation for. Right. And so that's exactly what I did. Is maybe I'm still doing that a little bit to this day. I just. And make sure that I don't have to think about things so much and actually deal with my emotions and go through this stuff. But anyway, that's what I did. And then while going through all of that stuff, I really did think about what's important. And then I went to serving other people. That helped me a lot. And then Jimmy, a good friend of mine, helped me a lot through that time. And then we started a small group and then got closer to my faith. That helped me through that time and helped with, again, reminding myself of what's important. And then
helping other people was a big thing too. We went and did Villages of Hannah, which is like, you know, some different things downtown where like you help some just people in need. And that helped me like stop thinking about myself so much too, of like, oh, it's all about me, which I think is important to still like go through your emotions, think about yourself, think about different things. But also like if you're feeling hurt, sometimes it helps to like be helpful to other people.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's what I did. And then, I mean, now it's helped me to emotionally be able to deal with that stuff, you know. And honestly, if I didn't do that, I don't think that I'd be able to have the emotions or like the connection that I even have with all of you guys, because like I'd be thinking the same way, which like you can still tell I get into that mindset and that mode of like, oh well, hey, like don't think like that. You know, don't feel like that. When it's like, dude, you can't control how you feel. So I want to be receptive, open, and then really help with that. So, yeah, it was really an ego death, and I had to go introspective and really think about my life and where I wanted to go and what I wanted. And then, you know, I still knew this aligned. And then also, when I commit to something and someone, I feel like an obligation to do that all the way through. And I committed that we're gonna do this. And so then it's like, all right, we're gonna power through. So
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
I love it. I have one because like I still honestly don't know, and I don't know if a lot of us know that we're here from this day or like since it happened. But like, how did you guys like even start connecting with Drew when you were gonna like mentioning buying the rear, taking over the rear? Like, how did that even like happen and just come up? Was it out of the blue? Were you guys already like previously talking about it? Like, walk us through how that happened.
So Drew actually messaged me.
Well, we can go back a little bit further. We met with Drew a couple times, Buffalo Wild Wings, sat down with him, asked him if we could get into the Creating Cash Flow Mastermind because he had created a situation where he had a market advantage, and he kind of knew that like being the head of the Real Estate Investors Association, that if he joined a mastermind, other people were going to join masterminds too. He didn't want them to have Ryan Dossey's mastermind because he felt like it was one of the better ones.
And now we have it.
Yeah, well, yeah, we ended up joining Ryan Pineda's, which was a blessing in disguise to be part of one that was scaling so hard. So we met with Drew a couple times. He said like, I'm sorry, I think I'm going to keep it to myself still. And then we kind of let him know that like, hey, just out of respect for you, we've always been friendly competition, and you know, we'll still crush you if we both have a sales call coming in. We're going to try and get out there first, get it under contract, everything else. But we're going to play fair, too. If you've been talking to somebody, you had it under contract, and then somebody tried to snake it from you, we'll do what's right. So he respected our hustle. He also respected our ethics and what we were about. And then Dakota started making some regular posts on social media. That's when Drew reached out.
Yeah, so I was trying to find the text message and stuff while Tony was telling that story, but yeah, basically I was just like posting a lot, and that was when I was going through it. It's so funny, we're talking about breakups here apparently.
Sorry.
But that was the time when I was going through another ending of a relationship with Diana, who I was with for like 4 years, and that was very, very difficult for me. And so then I go back to reflection, like reminding myself who I am, and like, you know, just like connecting with God more and like really going to that. So then, yeah, I started posting a lot more of like my internal thoughts, what I was struggling with, what I'm going through, and just like being vulnerable with people. And like, yeah, so I started sharing that. And then I think this is the text. Let me see. Hey man, I know that I've said this before and I don't mean to be redundant, but I'm really impressed with your growth and maturity in the last 6 months, maybe longer. Really good stuff, and it's really apparent. I watched the last podcast, Jordan, Bobby, and Logan with you. Really good episode. I have an idea that I want to run past you, sort of off the record. There's no rush, but if you're interested in getting together, just us two, or just the two of us, please let me know and we'll put it together. And then that was on December 21st, and then I literally just showed up on December 21st. So after he said that, I was like, all right, I'll go do it. And then on December 21st at 6:30. So that was December 21st at 3, and then it's December 21st at 6:30 p.m. So apparently I went over there right away and talked to him. And then I said, hey, I talked to Tony and we're 100% in. And then he's like, you know, hey, I haven't talked about it on my end. But basically in that conversation, he just said, I've been thinking about this a while, have not ran it by anybody. I just, you know, I know you guys have been talking about starting your own thing for a long time. And so I want to see if you'd be interested in taking it over, because obviously he has a lot bigger plans. He wants to do commercial. And again, it doesn't align with what he wants to do with his life. And so he also just wanted to just shut it down because he had a commitment to other people as well. And he's a man of his word. And so then I think that's really where it was like, okay, what's the best way that I could solve this for everybody? So it'd kind of be like me being like, hey, I don't align with LTD anymore, but I don't want to let you guys down, so I'm going to put somebody else in my place. So just kind of like, honestly, the goal right now, because like I do feel like right now, like I love it, and this is where I want to be, and obviously I'm going to give it my all while I'm here, but my goal is to have somebody else come in and then help run the ship and like still do all this stuff, because like I think that I'm a little bit past where I wanted to be. I wanted to stop this probably like a year ago and stuff. So, but I'm going to continue to grow and give everything I can while I'm here. But my goal would be to do the same thing that he's doing. Is like, hey, somebody else come in, take over, run this thing, and then, So I think that's what he did. But yeah, that's basically the story. Is this? He's messaged me from all those posts, said, hey, you're interested, and then talked to Tony, and there's a little bit more stuff that happened, but we don't got to talk about all that.
I was gonna say, I think most of us knew, or like kind of the background, because when you're making all those vulnerable posts and like doing that consistently, I knew that was some of it, but I wasn't sure if there was like more behind just that, which obviously we're not gonna talk about so maybe.
Awesome. Well, we're already at an hour, so I figured I'd ask one last question for you guys.
All right, hurry, because I gotta go to the bathroom.
Okay. No, and it's one that you guys ask your guests usually on the show. So if you're on your deathbed, you're 100 years old, what's your message to the world, Tony and Dakota?
Mine changed since the last time. I think I can't remember. Somebody asked me something similar not too long ago. My answer was different then, so my answer this time is more like a concept that I've been repeating a lot lately. So Dakota's already heard it 3 times probably, but it's that I feel like there's 2 different aspects of God, or 2 different aspects to the universe, masculine and feminine, and the masculine is responsibility and the feminine is empathy. And I see this a lot in politics, where like people who are a lot more woke are so interested in empathy that they don't understand that no one owes you anything, you don't owe anyone anything. Like, the world can be a very unforgiving place where like things just happen and it is what it is. And then empathy is more like that motherly love. And so even with responsibility, I was talking to somebody and they're like, I just don't think I agree with like that masculine energy at all. She kind of rejected a lot of men and was in a place where she just like didn't want to hear anything from men. And I was like, well, do you believe that other people's rights are your responsibility? Like, you have a right to like, you have the responsibility to like speak up when you think somebody's rights are being violated in public. She was like, yeah, I do. And I was like, well, that's masculine energy right there. Like, that's the caring father that steps in and says like, hey, don't hurt people kind of thing. And so to me, it's like, you know, maybe if it was just a billboard, it would say empathy plus responsibility equals love.
I love it.
Yeah, I've not thought a lot about it. It's funny that we ask the question a lot, but I don't really think about it.
Right.
Also, can you turn that camera? I texted you if you could turn that camera just a tad bit to this way.
Which one?
To the left a little bit?
Yeah, to the left. To your left. When you bumped it, it like went over, and then like I'm like cut out of this thing like the last half of the interview. Yeah, I was like, well, I guess this is what it is now. That'll be good.
Yeah.
All right.
Ish. See if you can grab the top of it and then turn it. Yeah, there you go. Just a tad bit. Good enough. There you go.
Sweet.
All right. So my answer to like a billboard, I guess, would be man, I'm trying to think of like the best way to phrase it. But I would say, remember whose you are and who you are, and remember what's important. Like that's something that I think about all the time whenever I'm running through stuff and like I start to question everything. I'm like, okay, who am I? Who is God? And like, what is important? Because a lot of times, like, we think we know what we want to do in a certain situation, but we don't think about the bigger picture. Like, what are we actually doing whenever we do that? So I think if you can answer those questions, who is God, who am I, and what's important, then I think that you can make some pretty dang good decisions.
Absolutely.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, that's a great point. All right, well, that's sort of the end of the show. I know me and Andrew still have tons of questions, so if this is
Yeah,
something you guys wanted to do again,
Yeah, I
leave a
didn't
comment,
even-
or you guys, let us know. But I really enjoyed this, and we appreciate you guys having the time for us to ask you questions.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Awesome. See you guys.
Peace out, guys. Boom.